We have all seen FPV clips, but have you seen the whole flight? Ask yourself that, because you probably haven't. And there's much more to the strike than the final collision with the enemy. So today I'm going to share the complete combat flight of a bomber FPV drone from right when the drone took off to landing. This is one of the FPV bombers that I made, working against the Russians in the hands of my friend Arnie, who I featured on my channel a lot. Now, first of all, what is their mission on this flight? Their mission is to drop a firebomb on an enemy trench. And the firebomb is basically just a napalm IED built in a basement. The problem is that the Ukrainian trench is less than 20 meters away, so it has to be very direct. The Ukrainians there have been stuck with minimal food and ammo, as well as sustaining some casualties, which have prevented them from exfilling for over a month. So our bomber team is going to be a direct relief for them, as we target the enemy less than 20 meters away with precision dropper strikes. You can see that the video is kind of cutting in and out every once in a while. That's very normal for analog. You just have to adjust where the antenna is pointing, and I'm going to get into that later. But the location. This is just south of Chasiv Yar. Back before Pokrovsk was a thing, this was one of the most contested areas in 2024. The Russians were slowly pushing back our infantry, and because of that, our drones became more intensely needed to stall the Russian advances in the surrounding areas with a watchful eye or with FPVs like these. Now I want to talk about the pilot and the drone a little bit more. So the pilot is Arnie, as I said. He's one of the best pilots I know. He showed me what an FPV was early on in 2023 when I was an instructor. He was really one of the early adopters. Now the bomber you're seeing through right now is the one right here. It's built off of hobbyist parts bought online with a couple additional pieces to be combat ready. Some stuff that I can't say for OPSEC, but it's generally the same thing. It's a 10-inch drone, and it's capable of carrying 2 kilos over 10 kilometers. Its purpose was to be a cheap bombing solution, which can carry supplies or bomb a target 7 kilometers away and come back, if it's 1.5 kilos. And if it were to be downed, it wasn't going to break the bank. Our pilots could worry less about the drone and more on the job and the taskings, which also gave us more mission flexibility for our command, who even from the brigade level gave taskings to them that they would have had to wait a long time for from a more expensive bombing drone, or the request shot down entirely because of the busyness in the sector. Now let's talk about what you're seeing on the screen. So in the top left, you're going to see a 1 or a 2.5. That is the VTX power. It means wattage. How many watts are emitting from the VTX, going into the air, and then you pick it up in the form of a video signal. And you can toggle that from 25 milliwatts to 2.5 watts, 10 times more. And then the top right, you see the altitude, where he's roughly around 140 to 160 meters, which is a very typical height to be operating at. And in the top, you see the compass bearing. So that way, instead of just dead reckoning, he can also just go towards a compass heading, which is very useful. And then right below the altitude is the signal strength of the RSSI, which is the controls. And it goes from 1 to 100, but honestly, it's gonna work no matter if it's at 12 or whatever it is right now. And if you look at the left center, you can see air. That means acro mode, which means he can do flips, he can do barrel rolls, he can do anything he wants. He's a good pilot, so he can fly in any mode that he wants. And below that, battery percentage, once it gets to 21 or below a voltage, you're gonna see it drop very, very fast. So once it hits 21, you're pretty much smoked in the next couple minutes. It's gonna go down. It's gonna run out of battery. And right when you take off with a load, it's probably gonna be about a high 22 to a 23 point something. And then further down, you see the timer, which is how long he's been in flight, as well as to the right, the name, Gooned Out. And in the top middle, you can see the horizon lines that are moving. They're based on the gyro in the drone to let the operator know that he's upright. Honestly, it's not something a lot of pilots need. It's more just there for orientation purposes if it's dark outside or something like that. Now let's talk about the training. Arnie, as well as the others, have been taken every other day to the field to test and train with these bombers Alex and I made. We would a lot of times lose these drones during training and never find them, because there was never one reason. Sometimes it was engineering failure, other times it was jammed out of the sky, interfered out, or just flat out blew up for some reason. We had a lot of difficulties with the drones on position previously. This video you're watching right now is one of the first successful flights after 2 failed missions previously. But nonetheless, our team was invested in this deeply, and we knew that failure was a part of it. Rome wasn't built in a day sort of mindset. Now in the bunker that they're sitting in right now, it's operating about 7 kilometers away. Arnie and the team have about 10 of these bombers handy. We've made about 10 of them and we sent it out to them. And the way that they're operating is very similar to many FPV teams, which is that they have the main FPV pilot, and then Artem is flying the Matrice 350 RTK with a repeater on top, which is a massive drone, so that way Arnie can get signal above the trees and the hills. And then they also have a sapper who is attaching the bombs he made to the bomber. The sapper and Artem are both navigating as well, and balancing the radio, because FPV teams are often only targeting when given the order like this one. So this forced just ahead of him is the target. He did a couple drops on them prior to this, so it's a bit easier for him to know what direction to come at that target from and where the enemy trench is. As he's making his approach, he's going to let Artem, the repeater flyer, know he is banking towards it. So Artem knows to orient the repeater to the left or right. If the signal gets weaker or better, Arnie will tell him, and they will adjust accordingly. Also, during this flight, you might have noticed he had a strong wind going from right to left, which made him have to bank the drone to the right to fly against it and keep on track. The closer an FPV pilot flies to the objective, the more chance for jamming. But because both sides are using drones like these, sometimes they aren't going to jam it just because they want their own drop raiders able to conduct their own work. And other times, the jammers that are in the gray area are so locked down by drones that they can't even get resupplied gasoline to power the generator for the jammers. So they're just sitting there non-operational. Now as he's lining up his shot, he's coming into that trench, which you can see, he passes over. And he doesn't release yet because he doesn't want to hit the friendly Ukrainian trench. He wants to make sure it's dead on the Russian trench. He's going to pass over these guys multiple times, and that's because he really wants to be certain with the navigators helping him that he's targeting the right trench, which is not super visible with the analog view that he has, as you guys can see. Unfortunately, as he does this, he's going to lose quite a bit of battery because he's moving the drone around a lot to line up the shot rather than just flying to the objective like he was for the last 5 minutes. As he's flying, it becomes more dangerous to get shot down since he's loitering longer. But using an FPV bomber that only operates based on inertial dropping techniques, where he has to continue flying forward and erratically to have the camera see the target, it helps him dodge observation from the enemy, and it helps him not get shot down. And this is opposed to a daytime Mavic, which has to be stable over the target for 30 seconds to line up and release the bomb. I'm going to talk about the Mavics later, but they are the most frequently shot down drone for this reason. So he drops it, but it ends up being a dud, unfortunately. That is the case with a lot of FPV strikes that you just don't know. That sometimes the munitions don't go off. Sometimes because it's a faulty primer, sometimes it's because it just didn't blow up, you know? There's a million different reasons. It's all engineered in a basement somewhere by some random guy that you don't even know, but he's part of your unit and he's your bomb guy. And you can see in the distance there's some artillery in the field that blew up, but because these trenches are so close together, the infantry are fighting so close, nobody can call an indirect fire, which can very easily kill their friendly units. And that's where these bombers come in. That's where the drones come in. When you need direct fire support on this trench that's 20 meters away, but you can't call an artillery because you're gonna kill yourself. So overall, Arnie and the team conducted over 20 strikes with our 10 drones and lost 4 of them in total with 2 damaged as well. The attrition rate was sustainable, which was the point. Yeah, it's over 50% attrition rate if you look at it in those eyes, but these drones only cost $500 at that time. Now it's gonna be quite a bit more just because everybody's trying to buy FPV parts, but it's a lot more affordable than kamikazes. Kamikaze drones are one and done. You will not return to your base with an armed drone. So once it sets off, it's going, it's gone. Bombers not only can strike a target, but they open up the opportunities of resupplying troops as well. I remember distinctly as I sat in the engineering house writing up a care package of additional drones and supplies for the guys on position, we got a call from Arnie and Artem who were flying, who told us how they just resupplied that Ukrainian team who was 20 meters away from the enemy trench. And they yelled in joy at the radio for it. And I had no idea this would be the case, but helping in that way, that little way, our friendly infantrymen, was a lot more meaningful than striking the enemy. So let's once again take a look at what he's seeing on the screen as he's flying back. Because he's going against the wind now, as well as loitering above the target for a while, the drone's battery is at a low 21 point something. And like I said, once it goes below 21 volts, even 20.9, it will exponentially decrease. Arnie knows this, and he's probably already telling his team of the situation so that they can ready another drone for a flight just in case it doesn't come back. Also, on the screen, you can see that he's heading back home, which is a combination of dead reckoning as well as the compass heading. When it comes to drone flights, if you lose your bearing for even a couple seconds, it can totally throw you off course until you run out of battery and you crash. This has been a reoccurring issue that we've had during drone missions, both Mavic and FPV. For instance, the daytime does not look the same as thermal, so our dead reckoning of hotspots that we view on thermal doesn't look the same. So it's important not only to rely on sight, but on the compass and the navigator to go and help during these long FPV flights. Other than that, you can see in the surrounding area how the front line changes on the ground. As he was approaching his target, within about 2 kilometers of it, the ground looked like the moon. But now that he's heading back, it looks a lot calmer. That is very typical on the front line. Once you're more than 3 or 4 kilometers away, it can even be hard to realize you're even at war sometimes. And this isn't to say that you're not going to be taking indirect fire or FPV strikes or Mavic drops or even artillery at times, but most people's task on the front line, especially drones, are to support the very zero-line infantry. Overall, FPVs take a long time to engineer to get working on the front line, and they also take a long time to get good at flying, but it's definitely worth it. The missions that he conducted there made a big impact, and it really freed up some more expensive resources for other missions. It had a small but meaningful impact on the front line. Now he's almost back to his bunker, but the drone is having a really hard time keeping up. And that's because the battery is beyond its capacity. So he's most likely looking for a spot he could potentially recover the drone, an identifiable area. Recording your flights also helps with this, so you can relook at the crash, which helps you find the drone later. But anyway, as he's flying back, you see that he's running out of battery. The voltage is way down low, and he ends up crashing in the field. But luckily, it's a $500 drone. It's okay. It's okay. You don't need to grab it. And that's how a lot of these drones go down. They almost made it back, but not quite. It's okay. It is a $500 drone. It's not a $3,000, $4,000 Mavic drone that carries a quarter of the weight and goes a quarter of the distance. This is a very inexpensive but effective drone. And yeah, I just want to kind of give you guys the full picture. This is what a normal flight is. You can lose the drone from whatever. You can bomb a target, but it doesn't go off. But again, that's not something you'd see on online. So I thought you guys would be curious. Anyway, I hope you learned something. I'm sure you guys did. And I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.